Welcome to another episode of Bringing the World to Your Table. My name is Abby Gray and I'm a chef from Norwell. And sitting next to me is my good friend and business partner, Megan.
And I'm Megan, and I'm a lawyer, and together we have Travel with Abby and Megan. It grew out of Abby's culinary adventures and my cultural curiosities. Together we bring people to different destinations around the world on intimate and curated trips.
We generally like to take 6 to 8 people, right?
Yes, that's right.
We do deep dives.
Yep, and we do down and dirty trips, which are short trips to sometimes places like Paris or Rome.
Or maybe Stockholm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you can go in and out in 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. Today we're going to explore Bordeaux, which is in France.
Yes, one of our favorite destinations.
Yes. Bordeaux is a great place, and there's so many interesting things about it.
Did you know that there's a berry that grows really well with the grapes?
I didn't.
And it's because of the terroir.
Ah, and what is the terroir?
Well, it's different in each community. So terroir refers to the land and how things grow. It can be, it's acidity, sandiness,
amount of lime.
I never have the right combination when I explain this, but it's basically what the grapes grow in, or the land, or vegetables,
and this other mystery,
and this mystery ingredient. And then there's a famous chef from the area who, it's very interesting. The famous chef from the area, and we'll tell you who this is a little bit later, is also an inspiration to one of the chefs who's doing great things right now at the Hotel Intercontinental, who happens to work for another well-known chef. Oh. So we have a little story there.
Oh, I can't wait.
What else?
And I'm going to talk a little bit about some architecture, and there happens to be a very well-known architecture in Bordeaux that was actually built based on Napoleon Bonaparte. So can't wait to get to that down the road.
And there's an architect who's done a great deal in Bordeaux and also Paris.
Yes, Victor Louis. And he designed many of the buildings in Paris as well as in Bordeaux. And he was really a kind of a mainstay for what Bordeaux looks like today.
I think what's really interesting about him is that of course, cities have sometimes a architect who's really put their stamp on things, but he's done the opera.
Yep, the Grand Theater.
The Grand Theater and the Intercontinental Hotel. But that Intercontinental, hotel, the Intercontinental Hotel, was a group of 8 to 9 mansions.
That's right, mansion houses that were right in the center of Bordeaux. And when they made the Intercontinental Hotel, they did obviously extensive renovations, but were able to put them together and combine them into what we see today. And that's actually just right across the street from the Grand Theater or the Opera House.
Beautiful when you walk out. So we're going to do that, but then first we should probably tell you how to get to Bordeaux.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's lots of, there's not lots of ways. Again, it's boat or airfare, air, and we think you should fly. Yeah. But you can fly through other cities. We typically fly through Charles de Gaulle in Paris. And we typically fly through, and then on the way back, we usually take the train because the train is such a great way to travel in Europe.
Yeah, there's just such a great way to travel. There's obviously a great way to see the countryside, to see the cities.
In high season, they do sell out because there is a first and second class on the trains, but it's really easy. There's a website that we can throw up on the screen for you, and you can purchase your tickets here. And actually, I found, depending on when you go, Megan, it can be cheaper because you're buying like 6 months in advance. You get a ticket for maybe $29. When you're there, it would be about $40. You can also drive, but we don't recommend a car in Bordeaux. No.
Once you get there, it's really difficult to park, and the parking can be expensive. And there's plenty of other ways to get around town. You can take the buses, trams. There's even Uber and Lyft in many of these places.
Uber is actually, when I was there last January, is quite efficient. I would also say car and driver, if you're going to go out to the chateaus, like I said, it's the biggest wine producing region, but the chateaus offer a lot more, and as do the walled cities. Saint-Emilion, Pomerol, Margaux,
list goes on and on.
Saint Eustache. There's so many. And all those towns have a unique history, amazing food. It's really something to go to Saint-Emilion and see which is right in Bordeaux, outside the city rather, and to see the wall that's still there.
And see a little bit of the countryside.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong.
No. So where would where would you go first on your architecture tour? If we're talking about the opera, we have some news.
Right. Well, so if you're planning on going to the opera, oftentimes when we talk about times a year to go, some things you might want to look out for is in Europe in general, a lot of times the performers or the artists, they do also take vacation in August. So you just want to be sure to check the schedule ahead of time.
August they flee to the beaches.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you might not be able to catch a show or a performance then. But if you'd like to just see the building, they do offer tours. But unfortunately for the Opera House in Bordeaux, they are only in French. So you can still go along, take in the architecture, and just use it as an opportunity to see inside of the building.
And I actually thought about this, but we haven't used it. There is an app where if you hold your phone out while you're on a tour, it will translate for you in English and you can read it.
Right, Google Translate oftentimes will do that.
Yeah.
They can translate from you can even take a snapshot of
No, but I mean on the tour.
But it also does, by hearing. So, yeah, there's some different options. If you're not there in August, you can catch a show, and that's another way to see the inside of it.
But don't be scared, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Go anyways.
Right, but the Opera House itself was designed by that Victor Louis, the architect who did a lot in Bordeaux. And it has a beautiful exterior. It has the 12 statues, Corinthian columns, and it has 9 muses and 3 goddesses. So Venus, Aphrodite. So it's a really just beautiful
We have a picture of that
exterior. Yeah.
We have a couple with some close-ups of the different statues, but also at night it's illuminated and it's absolutely gorgeous. And what happens is the opera is right across from the Intercontinental, as we said. Okay, so you have a just a road or a breezeway between them, and the opera is all lit up. And then you look at the Intercontinental, that's all lit up. And then the top of the roof of the Intercontinental is called the Bordeaux Beach.
Oh, right, in the summertime.
Yeah, in the summertime, and you can go up there and have dinner and cocktails and whatnot. But it's really spectacular.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a beautiful place. And what were you talking about, the restaurant?
Oh, you know what else you can do there? You can go to a Michelin-starred restaurant.
It's amazing.
What I love about... Now, I think you can go to a lot of Michelin-starred restaurants in the world and la-di-da. I mean, some of them are great, but they're not always your food. Right. Not always what you like. I would say that Gilad Peled, who was inspired by Joel Robuchon, who we'll get back to later in the show, is an amazing chef. He's an Israeli chef who has a huge following. He makes the magic happen. The restaurant, which is La Presse d'Argent, is actually owned by Gordon Ramsay, who has 2 stars. Okay. But Gilad is head chef, executive chef, and I had the pleasure of eating there and trying things out for our clients just to make sure everything was okay.
So he's the magic behind the star.
He's the magic behind the star. And he has an amazing menu. I can't even remember everything that I ate.
Right.
But I ate everything that they brought. And then they had these beautiful pairings, wine pairings, and everything about the experience is Michelin. So what makes a Michelin star is, first of all, you don't know you're being reviewed. It's everything from the service, from how your coat is handled to if you drop something. Like, for instance, I didn't even realize my napkin had fallen to the floor and someone came and it was immediately whisked across my lap, and I thought, this is just like home. But the other thing I really enjoyed is I ate by myself because I wanted to see, and I also wanted to taste everything and experience it and say, is this worth it? Should we tell our clients to spend probably $375 for a meal? And it is.
It is.
I wouldn't say every Michelin star restaurant is.
Or every night.
Or every night.
Yeah.
But you go in, and it's in this gorgeous room in the Intercontinental, and being that they're old mansions, you realize then, knowing that, that the lobby and the bar behind it and the rooms off to the sides are probably one mansion. And then you go through different little staircases to get up to, or an elevator to get up to the restaurant. And then Bordeaux Beach. So it kind of all makes sense once you're in there. And just A-class staff. Yeah.
That's great.
And the other thing that you can do when you walk out of the Intercontinental is you can go around the corner, and canals, which we're going to be cooking today, are really they're the sweet treat of Bordeaux.
Ah,
So all the bakeries have different versions of them in terms of some have more rum, some
Oh,
have
okay.
more caramel. It makes caramel, and there are some savory versions of it too.
oh, right. You were saying that.
Yeah,
So you could have them as dessert or as an accompaniment to your meal.
to your meal. Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Do you have a favorite? I'm gonna say it, bridge. Don't you?
Yeah. So along the River Garonne in Bordeaux is the Pont de Pierre Bridge, which means stone bridge. But the interesting thing about it is that it was built during Napoleon's era, and it has 17 pillars, one for each letter of Napoleon Bonaparte's name. And it also has the symbol of the town of Bordeaux, and it's just a really beautiful bridge that connects the left and the right bank, and is kind of an iconic piece of architecture
I
for
think they're
Bordeaux.
all gaslights across. I
believe
feel
so.
like maybe they're
Yeah.
not anymore gaslights. I'm
Right,
not
right,
sure,
but it's that vision. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very romantic and
Right,
fabulous.
right.
And then you can't really go to Bordeaux without going to La Cité du Vin.
Right.
So it is a wine museum, but the most amazing thing about it is because that's a growing region.
Yeah.
The typical museums of the past were just like
About the process, or had old implements or old techniques.
a barrel.
Right, right, or
With
a
a
press, or a great press. But this museum really is kind of a nouveau museum in the fact that
It's an architectural marvel.
It is. It is. From the outside, it's a very modern looking. It looks like a wine decanter, and on the inside, it's seven floors. Of experience, I would say. So, not only does it talk about the process, but it talks about wines around the world. It has all sensory type. You can take classes or lectures. Yeah, so I'd say Cité du Vin is not only an amazing museum, but it's a huge resource. You can take classes.
Yeah. And it has a beautiful restaurant as well.
Beautiful restaurant tasting room, the Belvedere room. So it has a 360-degree view of Bordeaux, and it's a great way to sort of wrap up your visit.
And yes. And if you wanted to delve back into the city, I would say there is a lot to do. The city itself has tons of educational classes on food, wine, olive oil, etc. One of the things that I do think is really cool is there's a couple very good vin schools that train sommeliers. But what's neat about that is they're also training service people.
Right.
And service in Europe is a profession. It is looked upon very highly. They are paid well.
Right, I was going to say it's a different pay structure, so it's
Health
not that they make
insurance.
the money on their tips; they're actually paid a living wage.
A living wage.
Yeah.
And also like to be the maitre d' of a fine restaurant is a huge accomplishment.
Right.
They many apprentice for years, and if you have ever eaten in a almost any restaurant, I'm going to say, except like the fast food ones in the city or whatever. I don't mean whatever. There are some, of course, that don't have the level of expertise as a l'Argent, but it is because it is a profession. People are treated very well, and that always makes me very happy. Because
Well, I think you talked about it as far as the Michelin star goes, right?
Yeah.
Not only is it the food, but the service. So that plays a big factor, and so you have to have somebody that's a professional for sure.
Yeah, and if you've ever gone to a nice restaurant and had bad service, it kind of ruins your whole meal.
Yeah,
That's
true.
So there are those great things.
Yeah, and I was going to say to delve a little bit also into the food scene, because we've talked
yeah.
about the terroir.
Oh, yes.
But so that not only affects the grapes, but also there's so many amazing products, right, that come from Bordeaux.
Yeah, there are. So Bordeaux is known, for many things, but oysters are very big. Raspberries,
Right, because it's
are very
along
big.
the coast, right?
Yeah,
Raspberries.
raspberries.
Interesting.
Mushrooms. Beautiful fruits and vegetables.
Lamb also, right?
Oh, lamb's big, yeah. And beef. Beef steak l'orange is big.
Yeah.
Also fowl. They love
Right.
fowl. I can't think of
Poultry.
anything but poultry. Yes. They love sauces.
Yeah.
The Bordeaux wine is reflected in a lot of the sauces. Bordeaux can be red or white, by the way, so it can be used with poultry or beef or potatoes. And the famous chef Joel Robuchon, who passed away last year, is from that region. He had a beautiful restaurant, and he inspired Gilad Peled, who is now the chef at
Intercontinental.
At the Intercontinental.
Oh, wow.
So as a boy, he was Chef Robuchon was his inspiration.
Oh, wow.
So it's really nice that he kind of got to come home to his home city
Mm-hmm.
and create a restaurant there.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So today we're gonna cook. Quenelles.
Yes.
Which are not easy, by the way.
And are we making the savory or the sweet?
We're gonna make the sweet.
Oh, excellent.
I don't like any fish in my quenelles. And then we're also going to make steak l'orange, which is a favorite of often the crew.
Yeah.
And most friends and family, right? It's
right.
a really delicious kind of steak.
Wrong.
You can't go wrong. But some of the things that, just before we decide to go cook, some of the things that also France and that region are known for are pastry, cheese, chocolate. I have some chocolate molds out on our ottoman there because they make a lot of chocolate and molds are very big. You'll see the Quenelle mold. Mm-hmm. So their stores, all the cookery stores sell the molds for the various things. These are for chocolate spoons to put in your hot chocolate or your lattes.
Are Madeleines something else that use a mold, would you say?
Yeah, Madeleines use a mold. I've got gorgeous molds for terrines and layered cakes and layered vegetable dishes and layered potatoes, which are quite good.
Sounds amazing.
Of course, Paris and France and Bordeaux and everywhere in that region is known for love. So we have our Amour bowl that we eat our cereal out of. And then the French love and do a very good job with beauty products and skin products.
Perfumery and again, back to the art of the mixing of the scents. And
it's a huge industry in general, but there are master's degrees in it in France. And scarves, bags, luxury goods are very, very important and not necessarily taken for granted. You know, they're thought to be part of the dress woman or man
every day.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I can't wait to go eat either. So I guess I have to go cook.
Yes. Let's get to the kitchen.
All right. Welcome back to Bringing the World to Your Table. Here we are in my kitchen, and it's a studio as well, and we cook in here every day. And today we're going to make two recipes that are very Bordeaux inspired. In fact, the book that I got the recipe from for the steak l'orange or bouffe l'orange, how the French say it, is called the Bordeaux Kitchen. And we love this particular recipe. It's steak, and I am using a ribeye. The French would use a spider steak. The spider steak is a very delicious cut of meat. It's typically left for the chef. People don't really cut it for large groups or families because it's very expensive. There's a ton of nerve tissue in it, and there's lots of collagen. So it's a really good piece of meat. So is the ribeye. It comes from this part of, do you want to show them?
Oh, sure. Would it come from the top sirloin?
Megan loves this cow, so and I love cows, so we got a ceramic cow. So it's top. It's top sirloin up here, and it's ribeye
and
ribeye here.
Yeah.
Our steak, it comes from here.
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to start making the orange sauce. I'll start that now.
So first up for the ingredients are
we have some duck fat.
Ooh, this looks
So
delicious.
duck fat is actually not as dangerous as people think. Duck fat has a lot of great properties, and Jacques Pepin, who taught me some of how to cook in culinary school, said you can interchange duck fat with butter. So you're supposed to do it 2 teaspoons, but I might have done a little bit more. There's nothing wrong with a little good duck fat. All right, then we're going to take an orange, and I am going to juice the orange. I am right-handed. Now, I'm using a burner here. I know you can see the burners behind me, but we are doing this for the show. And I really, whoops, that's all right. I really like to control my heat. So I cook on gas anyways. I've got a stovetop range. If you're doing it on an electric stove, I would say maybe keep it on low to medium. You don't want this to burn. The fat could cause it to burn. We're going to put the juice of 1 orange, and we're going to put the zest of half an orange.
Oh, okay.
So this is a very popular recipe. The French love their meat, as do our husbands.
Yeah.
Our husbands love meat when we cook. This is a really easy recipe, and it's really nice for a family. You can pair it with potatoes, a nice rice pilaf. The French would probably do a gratin, which means with cheese. So they'd probably do layered potatoes with cheese. And they would also probably throw in some mushrooms from that beautiful region.
Bordeaux, yeah. So if you're cooking for, say, 2 or 4 people, how much steak would you typically use?
Okay, so it just depends on your people.
Oh, okay.
Okay, women should eat, so if you want to stay healthy, women should eat beef, by the way, if it's really good for you. There's lots of iron. It's good for your red blood cells. But you should only eat 3 or 4 ounces. Men typically eat 5 to 6 ounces. They can eat a little bit more. They need a little bit more. However, you should get in the habit of weighing your food, because if you weigh your food, you can eat almost anything. You know, you just need to know what you're eating.
The portion size.
The portion size, correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zest into the sauce here.
And does that just add a concentrated orange flavor to it?
Oh, yeah. It adds beautiful. And they say half an orange, but I might put a little bit more in. It's not going to hurt anything. Or sometimes what I do is when I put the butter over the steak, and let's start this. Start this burner, Megan. When I put the butter over the steak, I sometimes zest some orange onto that. It's a really great flavor combination.
And I see you're cooking it in a cast iron pan. That also adds iron to your meal, right?
Yes. And, you know, you only use hot soap and water to clean a cast iron pan, and then you can run a little mineral oil over it.
Oh, to reseason it.
Yeah. Okay. So we want to be careful that doesn't burn. The thing about steak is, if you're doing steak inside and it's winter or whatever, you're doing it inside, do it in a cast iron pan. There's no other real good way to do it, unless you're going to grill it outside.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We're going to go, I always do it medium rare.
Sounds good.
You always let meat sit, whether it's pork, beef. You don't have to let chicken sit. But chicken you cook through completely to 165 degrees. Meat should go to like 124, 123, 124, and you cook it basically this thickness, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to save my little knob of butter till later. But this is the thickness. It's about, I don't know, almost an inch thick. So we're going to go 3 to 4 minutes on each side, and then we're going to pull it off, and we're going to let it sit, and that's when we're going to add the sauce.
Now I noticed that it looks like you've already salted the meat.
I have salted the meat. So what that does is, as soon as meat should also be somewhat room temperature. You never want to go right from the fridge to the pan, although you do want a really hot pan, and you want cold meat. In terms of, you don't want it sitting out for hours.
Right.
A good 15 to 20 minutes is the rule. And then you salt it because you bring out all those gorgeous flavors. Okay, now, so this doesn't burn. I'm going to turn this off for a minute because this heat is really high. So in this pan, I have salted my steak, as Megan mentioned. I'm going to put just a smidge in.
More into the pan.
Just a little bit.
And does that help with the...
It draws the juices out.
Okay.
So we want those beautiful brown juices, because then that's going to mix with the orange sauce.
And it looks like the pan is dry, so you don't put any type of oil down to start the steak.
I don't.
Okay.
If you have a really hot pan and you have your meat at the right temperature, you don't need fat for that, okay? And if you're trying to cut calories and be health conscious, don't add the extra fat.
Right.
And that's what you should hear. You don't ever want to start cooking a steak and not hear that gorgeous sizzle. Okay? So this is going to cook, like we said, for 3 or 4 minutes. I am going to actually take, now you can use shallots or garlic or both. You don't have to worry about if you don't have one or the other. I actually used all my shallots last night and didn't realize that, so I'm going to use fresh garlic. And then I've got some salt, some pepper, which a lot of people don't realize this, but if you have a spice and nut grinder, it's always great to grind your own pepper. Restaurants always do, and at night for service, they fill the pepper. It's just fresher.
Yeah,
it makes sense. That's why pepper grinders also are pretty popular now.
Right.
You know, same thing.
Yeah.
But in school, they make you grind it all and then portion it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a little coffee grinder that I keep separate just for my spices.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work too, a coffee grinder. I have a nut and spice grinder.
Special
You can
one,
just put it through the dishwasher. It's great.
Oh, that's handy.
So while this cooks, we'll talk a little bit about our second recipe for the day.
Okay.
And they are quenelles. And quenelles are sweet, yummy treats.
Right, we talked about them a little bit earlier in the show, right? Where in Bordeaux.
Yes.
And the bakeries that specialize in this.
Yeah,
quenelles.
and you go and you can buy, you buy one or two and they put them in little wax paper sacks. But they, like I did mention that they also have savory ones.
Right.
And those tend to be a little bit bigger because they usually serve those up with a vegetable and a starch.
Okay.
The sweet ones are smaller, but they can be big. They can be like a piece of pie or a piece of cake.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing today is
That's what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
We're going to just show you the batter and the finished product because quenelles have to be, the batter, once you make it, has to be in the fridge for 24 to 48 hours. If you have the ability to put it in the fridge for 48 hours, the rum flavor will be amazing.
Oh, wow.
They also kind of caramelize in the oven, and I will tell you, you really need to watch them. I've burned 2 batches. One I fell asleep, and the other, it just was a matter of minutes. So then I got nervous, and I just kept checking it.
Yeah, yeah.
If you don't make something very often and you're trying it out, just try it out. It's so fun. It doesn't matter. And it's not a terribly expensive batter.
Right.
But it looks a lot like a very kind of a thin pancake batter.
Ah.
The only difference is, at least in our house, we don't put rum in our pancake batter because the kids are eating them. But you put rum in the quenelle batter.
Oh, okay.
And you want a really nice, dark, spicy rum.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah. Okay. So I usually, just go by 3 or 4 minutes on my watch for this. It's getting that nice brown.
It looks delicious.
Because it's in the cast iron pan.
Yeah.
I'm going to let it go for 2 more minutes, and then I'm going to turn off the heat.
Okay.
I'm not going to move it from the pan,
Oh.
okay, because I feel like it could cook for a minute or 2 more in addition.
Okay.
It will anyways. It will anyways, but if you leave it in the pan, it's sure to.
Ah.
I don't want to really, I want to have that beautiful pink center when we're done. Okay, so back over to the orange sauce. I need just to quickly add my garlic. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going, So we love this kitchen because it's a great kitchen. It's pretty and it's very functional. It's not as big as a camera crew needs, but it works. So what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of the garlic. And since we're just making a little bit of sauce, I'm just going to take the microplane in there, okay? I could take my knife and mince it, but why? I've got the microplane right here. We just want some of that flavor. Let's turn off the heat on that. Okay, so now I'm going to put a little bit of pepper.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to turn on my heat again. All right, so remember, we turn that off. Okay, so remember I put in 1 orange worth of juice.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just going to stick that there. And I have a little bit more zest.
Okay.
Okay, so while the steak is just kind of calming down right now, I'm just going to put a little more zest on.
Oh, okay.
It won't hurt anything, and it'll add tons of flavor.
Also looks really pretty.
Yeah, it does look really pretty, and I would probably just serve this on a random weeknight with like a beautiful salad and a Dijon vinaigrette. Yeah. And maybe some roasted tomatoes. I'm trying to be really good and not eat. I mean, I do eat, but I'm trying not to eat tons of starch. So the more vegetables you add to your diet, the better the antioxidants as well. There's lots of great cancer-fighting antioxidants in vegetables. That's good for your health. It's good for your heart.
Right.
It's good for your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is making me a little nervous because it's super hot. So I'm going to take it off. I'm going to put that knob of butter in. And so we're going to add a fat to a fat. But I'll show you what I do to finish it off. So you can see, if you're super busy, if you're working, if you've got kids and you don't have time during the day, this is a pretty easy dish.
Yeah.
So we have a pretty thick orange sauce going with the duck fat, so I'm just going to thin it out a little bit.
Okay. So you're adding a little bit of water to it?
A little bit of water.
Okay.
You could add a little bit of brandy if you really wanted to.
What would you say the thickness should be of the sauce?
Well, you don't want a real thick sauce with a steak. You want it to kind of fill into the crevices and fall into the meat. So what I'm going to suggest is that kind of like a glass of pulpy orange juice would be a good example.
Good comparison.
Good comparison. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this off. I'm just going to stick my steak back in the pan for a second so it can get that butter on either side.
Okay. And the pan is still off.
Still hot.
The pan is still hot, but the burner's
off.
off.
Yeah. Okay.
That looks delicious.
Yeah. And remember, so I added 2 tablespoons of butter. And you're putting it all throughout the steak. Butter, if you need fat to make things taste good, okay? And butter is, natural butter, think of it as you're putting real butter in your body, and you just have to watch the quantity.
Right.
Okay. All right, so now we are going to plate our steak and put the sauce on.
Can't wait.
All right. So we have our steak, and we've taken it out of the pan.
And we're getting ready to plate it.
We're getting ready to plate it. And one thing that you always do, especially as a chef when I'm serving groups, people, my family, whatever, but especially when you're serving people that you don't know, you taste what you've made, because you want to make sure it tastes like it should and that you haven't ruined it or done anything crazy. That's very good. There's a lot of duck fat in that. That is not a bad taste. I would also just quickly, I'm just going to test to make sure that this is, okay, so this is medium rare. Just make sure it's okay. And it is.
Excellent.
Okay. So to make it a little bit pretty, I might put it on a bed of greens or something. Or I'll just put some of the parsley. I'm going to, I'm just going to put like a portion. Sorry, I'm holding my knife incorrectly. You choke your knife. Okay, so I'm going to put a portion in the center because we'll plate it as if we were giving it to one person. Okay. And then I'm going to do just a smidge of salt, a smidge of pepper, and then a bit of the orange sauce. You see, that's pretty pulpy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks delicious.
It doesn't have to be as pulpy.
Okay.
It's fine. I just made it. I added extra orange because I think it's so delicious. Okay. And then, we'll add a little bit more parsley. This is really very nice dried parsley. I typically use fresh. And I forgot to cut it. So.
It looks very nice.
The very nice dried parsley is also a good option.
Yeah, it's very green looking.
Yeah, so this is what your steak would look like. I mean, like I said, I do it with vegetables and maybe a starch, and it's a lovely weeknight dinner. All right, so if I was plating this for my guests or my family, this is probably how I would do it. The one other thing I would do is I would take a wet paper towel and you always clean the rim.
Oh.
Okay, we didn't put that on our cart, but that's what I would do.
Yeah.
So you had a very clean rim and all of your colors in the center of the plate.
Great. And then such a beautiful meal seems like it should be followed up by a lovely dessert.
Yeah, so we'll get the quenelles out. We just have to add a little whipped cream.
Sounds good.
Okay. So here we have our quenelles, which we've been talking about. What I thought I'd do, because the batter, like I said, has to stay in the fridge, what I usually do is get a quart container ready. And I'll go through the ingredients and then we'll show you the process.
Sounds great.
Okay, so it's 3/4 cups of sugar with 3/4 cups of flour.
Okay.
It's a really easy.
White sugar, white flour.
White sugar, white flour.
Okay.
About a teaspoonful of salt.
Okay.
Okay. Vanilla beans. So I ran out of vanilla beans because I actually use them in this. But a vanilla bean is a wonderful flavor enhancer. If you don't happen to have vanilla beans or you don't want to buy one, you may use vanilla. But I would say go get one. They are expensive. They're about $17.99 a bean. If you happen, one day I was at a store and all the vanilla beans were running through at $3.99. So I went back and I bought like the whole shelf. But vanilla beans are expensive, okay? But they're worth it. And so you also have, we have 2 tablespoons of butter.
Unsalted or?
I always use unsalted.
Salted, yep.
Because when you're, unless baking, and baking is different. So if baking calls for salted butter, use salted butter. There's a reason they've said that. But if you're having unsalted butter is just good because you add salt to the recipe. This 3 eggs that we beat.
Okay.
Okay. 1/4 cup of rum. So I ran out of dark rum. I used it in these, but remember I told you that dark spicy rum is really better. If you don't have it, use the white rum. It'll still work.
Okay.
Okay. And then here's some butter that looks like it's been used, and it has. I've been taking my brush and I was painting the quenelle pan. So this is a quenelle mold.
Okay.
Okay. I actually got it in Paris.
Nice.
And you take the paintbrush and you just paint the little molds. You know, one by one, just go down the line. This batter will make about 30 to 35.
Oh, okay.
And I think there's 16 in here.
Right.
Okay, so what you do is you sift, and I'll just show you what you do. You sift, and I use just a double strainer.
Okay.
Okay, into a bowl. You don't have to have a old-fashioned
flour
sifter.
yeah.
So you sift together flour, sugar, and the salt. Okay. I also forgot. You use 2 cups of milk as well, and we'll make the recipe available to you. You take the milk and the butter and the vanilla bean, and you let that boil.
Oh, okay.
Okay, very gently.
Okay.
You take it off the heat and let it cool completely. And you put that into your sifted dry mix.
Okay.
Okay. And then you add your rum.
Okay.
Okay. You want your wet mixture warm, but you don't want it hot because otherwise you'll scramble your eggs.
Right.
Okay. You're not going to actually temper your eggs in this instance. You're going to whip these separately, and then you're going to whisk them into the dry ingredients and the milk and the butter.
Sounds delicious.
That's it. Then that's a lie. Then you put it back through the sieve, and you make sure that there's no
Lumps?
flour.
Okay.
Yeah, no lumps. So you do that, and when I do that, I just take a spatula, I put it back through the double strainer, press it through, and put it into the container that you want to put it into the fridge. However, you're going to leave it out until it's completely cool.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Cool to room temperature.
Cool to room temperature.
Okay.
So the issue that people do sometimes, if you put something hot in your refrigerator, if you take something boiling or something really warm and put it in your refrigerator, you're bringing the temperature of everything else down in your refrigerator, and you're making it unhealthy.
Okay.
And that's where bacteria grows and people get sick. So don't do that.
Okay.
Make sure it stays to room temperature. Okay. All right, so as I said before, I had burnt a bunch of them. Right? That's okay. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But, so this is a really burnt one that looks kind of ugly, although most people would eat it. This is kind of the perfect color. It's like this chocolate, deep,
because
it looks like caramelized. Yeah. This is a nice color, too, because on the bottom, that's on the top. See, and that's on the bottom.
Yeah.
the one thing is you do eat them within like 60 minutes of making them. So these bakeries in Bordeaux, they make them all day long. Once they get to a couple hours old, they're not that delicious. So, and when you're using this mold, you fill it to about 2/3 full. So I just put it like this on a baking sheet. It's very sturdy, actually. And I fill it to 2/3 full. If for some reason you don't have more batter at the end of your run, just put some water in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You just don't want to hurt the silicone. Okay, so what I do here in the U.S. is everybody thinks these are very cute and fancy. So you have to bake them off prior to your dinner, okay? And then I just add a little dollop, and I usually do it more precise. And what I would also do here, so what I do in the U.S. just for fun, is this is not working, it's how I want it to look. Because what I usually do is make my own whipped cream, and then I put a smaller tip on.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just so you can control it so it stays like a flower in the top. I won't be picky for TV purposes, but that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Because you need a little bit smaller of a tip. Otherwise, it just looks like a bit of a mess.
Oh, but I bet it's still delicious.
It is. But just also remember that when the canals are hot, this melts.
Oh, right.
So you want it to kind of go quickly.
Right.
And then put a little bit of shaved chocolate over it, which looks really pretty. And you could do it on a white plate, or I like it on the brown plate. I don't usually like brown, but I like it just because it kind of picks up the colors of the canal. So do you want to taste one?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, I'll taste one.
Delicious.
It's pretty good, right? There's nothing too bad about butter, sugar, flour. So
Generally can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on our trip to Bordeaux.
We had a lot of fun taking you there. And just remember, we always have room for more at our table.